And that was a really pivotal moment. And that really put a lot informed what I do and the message that I have now, because there are so many women that are out there, and whatever it feels like they don't have permission to feel good, because there's such a load to figure it out. And even if they're not going through a divorce or a certain situation that's causing that, just being alive and wanting to be successful and wanting to be a good wife and wanting to be a good mother. And there's this feeling of like, I have to figure these things out. I have to be making it happen. And it's okay to feel good.
Hello, everyone out there, and welcome back to the Expression of Love podcast. It is your host, Soul Xprsn. And once again, thank you for tuning in. Now, this is a special occasion for you, for me, for anyone who gets to listen or watch this episode. For today, I am speaking with Lilly Shepard. And I'm a fan of Lily's, even though she doesn't work. I'm not in the demographic of her work. I am a fan of how she does what she does. So in today's conversation, like I said, I'm speaking with Lilly Shepard. And as a pleasure coach and embodiment specialist, Lilly Shepard creates spaces for women to move their bodies without judgment, while offering opportunities for them to address their traumas and struggles while reclaiming their power. She applies decades of her dance training, 200 hours of certified trauma-informed yoga instruction, and her own personal experience to her work with high-achieving professional women. She says, quote, "I'm passionate about the power of movement and how to use it in such a way that it births the inner confidence and trust that's needed to design a life that not only looks good, but feels good deep down in your spirit." And we talk about that work that she does, and more so even, we talk about how she got there, how she got to a place where she knew that she wanted to do this type of work, help people move their bodies in such a way that builds confidence and trust in a deep and profound way. And in this conversation, you're going to learn a lot about slight differences in parenting, and how her experience with her mom helped shape different things in her own life, as well as our viewpoints on how society is shaped, what a couple changes that could be made for the better in child rearing, and as well as just human to human interaction. And we had a lot of fun. Check it out. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone out there in the world, and welcome back to the Expression of Love podcast. This is your host, Soul Xprsn, and I am wearing my favorite t-shirt because I have one of my favorite peeps here on with me today. Her name is Lilly Shepard. Lilly Shepard Moves on Instagram. Really like a pretty much an Austin powerhouse, if you will. And I know that you guys are going to really appreciate this conversation, because neither one of us are the personality type to just be sugarcoating everything we say. So I'm excited to see how this goes. For one of the first times in the whole podcast, I do not know Lilly very well. I know her Instagram very well because it inspires me, but I don't talk to this person that much. So it's the second guest that is not like a real good friend in that sense. So I'm excited for a whole bunch of reasons. Lilly, how you doing today? What's happening?
Oh man, I'm doing great. And I'm like, you know what? We're internet friends though. You know,
right.
You got to make that distinction though. Real life friends and internet friends and followers and lurkers and all the other type of things. But I'm doing great.
That's awesome. So I usually, just for the people, ask that my guests share a little bit about what you do, how your work creates opportunities for expressions of love in any way, shape, or form, and why you are invested in what you do because everybody that I bring on here is really invested in their, kind of communities in some way, shape, or form. So if you can give us a little bit about your current space, not the story yet, because we're going to get into your story. It's a very interesting story a little later, but just where you're at now and why you love it.
So yeah, right now I'm working as an embodiment coach, and I say pleasure advocate also. That's kind of in parentheses because it's such a strong part of what I do. But I help mostly professional women connect with their bodies and just begin to live from a more embodied place versus this cognitive space of always, letting the mind push everything forward. And I really just love this work because it's something that I needed. I'm a very driven, ambitious woman. I have a lot of things running in my mind at one time. And even though I grew up dancing, I've been a dancer my whole life. So movement was nothing new to me. It wasn't until I started moving in a different way that was more for my own expression, my own exploration, and just my own well-being that helped me to just take off. This was like a whole part that was missing. And yeah, I knew how to dance and I knew how to perform, but I wasn't really in touch with my body. I wasn't really trusting myself and trusting my decision making. And I found that connecting with my body and doing embodiment work has helped a lot with that. So that's what I want to share with the world.
Word. And how does in your eyes and in your experience, becoming, like, expanding your self-awareness into the intricacies of your body and your emotional body, if you will, how does that impact, I guess, your capacity for living fully as yourself? Like, how does that, because sometimes I may hear something like that, right? Like embodying how you really feel or expressing yourself fully. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
What does it even really mean? And how can it help me? Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. When you're in touch with sensation in your body and you can understand what things feel like. I mean, we have a response to things, right? Our heart starts beating faster. We might tense up at the thought of something different. Our shoulders might relax when we have a good memory. Our body is constantly giving us information. And so if you are, number one, aware enough to tap into it, and number two, open and willing to listen, you can be guided by that, because sometimes the mind gets in the way. We have a beautiful capacity to think and to rationalize and to reason and all of these things that make us human. But a lot of the times it gets in the way and it gets jumbled. And so when you're able to listen to your body, things become a lot clearer.
What kinds of things could become more clear?
Well, for me, I think my yeses and my nos become very clear, right? What I should take on, what I should decline. I think a lot of the times, and I'll give you an example, my mind always wants to do the things. I'm always excited. Hey, can you do this? Yes, I'll do it. Hey, can you show up here? Yes, I'll be there. And I like to do things and I like to be available and be present. But if I'm paying attention to my body, I can feel what no feels like, and I can take a minute to sit with, okay, your mind is saying, yes, do it, go, go, go. But how does your body react at the thought of going to sit in a meeting for 3 hours? How does your body react to scheduling a class when you just came back from out of town? Like, really taking a minute to sit with the automatic reaction of my body to whatever I'm being asked to do. And that leads me to trust myself a lot more, because my mind, the mind will trick you and it'll rationalize and make it.
Would you say that intuition expresses itself more in the body than in your like verbal thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. You feel it, I mean, the people have talked about, a gut feeling or something, and that's a real thing when you feel something isn't right, and you can feel both. I think intuition gets this rap of it only tells us when something is wrong, right? We should only pay attention to it saying like, no, don't go over there, or something ain't right, but in reality, you can use intuition. Things feel really right and aligned. And if you're paying attention and you're open to it, you can feel that as well.
Word. So not only will your body guide you away from the pitfalls and the quicksand traps, but it'll also guide you towards the goalpost. Awesome. I definitely resonate with that, because what a lot of people may underestimate is how much their insecurities lie in their bodies. Like interrogation officers and people that deal with a lot of liars and they get special training and stuff. What they are trained to look at most carefully is body language. It's not just what's coming out of your mouth and how consistent your story is. Because it's easier to master a consistent story than it is to master not letting your insecurities or you're not letting the truth be revealed.
The truth is in the body.
Yeah.
Period. The truth is in the body. And so nonverbal communication is like 80% of communication.
Yeah.
It's like, so I could be saying whatever, but so much of it is within the body. And you're absolutely right. Like that's much harder to mask and to hide than it is speech.
Absolutely. And speaking a little bit of on insecurity, first of all, I appreciate your mind, right? You have a way of conveying stuff that maybe you've been brewing over for a while in a way that's like, when you convey it, when you put it out there on your social media or on a video or even in just like a quick story post or something, people can get, oh yeah, that's wisdom, that's wise. It probably took her some years to get there, but now I get to just feed off of this little thing here. So I appreciate your mind. And one of the things that you offered up was I sent a mass kind of text out asking people to hit me with a couple topics in preparation for this podcast. And you gave me one of the juiciest ones. I think I called it juicy. You said, I want to talk about, or I want to hear on the podcast about self-love, specifically going beyond taking good care of yourself and appreciating yourself and all of the things into the less shinier things like checking yourself, knowing when you're not being honest with yourself, and then giving yourself permission to fail or make mistakes. So let's go there a little bit. And I'd love if you could incorporate some of your, again, very interesting, like twisty and turny story into this. For those of y'all who don't know, Lilly is a mother, and she's a wife, and she's business owner and entrepreneurial person, as well as all of these other things. And a lot of what you share on your platforms is this deeper, this checking myself, being honest with myself, embodying these values and principles. What comes to mind in this moment with that?
Well, self-reflection and the ability to check yourself, that's one of the hardest things, because delusion can keep you in a very comfortable pattern and cycle and loop, because you can fool a lot of people, but it's like when it comes to yourself, making any significant change in your life requires a real deep level of honesty and courage, to kind of face some parts of yourself that aren't bright and shiny and aren't appealing and don't attract people, but they're part of you, and those parts deserve love too, and they deserve a place. I think a lot of the times we try to erase everything that isn't like forward facing, what we want to present to the world.
Our mask.
Exactly. And the problem is, especially with social media now, is that you can kind of feel like you're in that presentation all of the time. You have a whole avatar, basically, several across whatever platform that you want, so that your actual humanness, it's separate. And I think that when you have the ability to really break down stuff, and I do it all of the time, and I'm so really grateful that I have great friends that I can talk this stuff through with, and I'll get on there and be like, girl, I'm tripping. I know I'm tripping. I just want you to hear how I'm tripping, and then tell me back how much I'm tripping, because I know, and it's like, because sometimes validation feels good. And I try not to concern myself with validation from anyone about anything, right? And that's kind of a principle that I live for. But it's human, it's human to want validation on things. And so I feel like having a network of where I can I don't have to just sit with the fact that, I'm bugging, I'm acting out of line, and I'm trying to portray things a certain way, but really this is how I really feel, and this is my real intention behind what I'm doing. And being able to share that, I think, is major, because I think a lot of people struggle with those feelings, but it has nowhere to go, and they just sit with it, and it makes them feel bad about themselves.
Yeah, or sit, like you said, just in their mask for so long. That when it's time to be authentic, when their little sister comes to them with real problems, and they can't treat that conversation like an interview, or like a like you think about like Disney Channel child celebrities, right? And how the ones that we grew up with, now they're 30, and they're or a couple years back, they were 25, and they were doing some wild shit. Like, it was story after story about some of these people who grew up in a way that it was their obligation to be in character, or to only be in character or in like business meeting mode, right? And whenever they got to just express their own thoughts, it was only an interview. So they had to learn how to say it quickly, concisely, and even if it's not true, with a smile, and stuff like that. And then they finally get to be an adult. They have their own car, and they just wow the fuck out.
Right, because it's like, who am I? Who actually am I? And I'll be honest with you.
I know y'all excited. If you seeing this message, you know what time it is. It is officially time for Expression of Rhyme. That's right. It is now time to get into the segment of my podcast where I interject a rap verse that touches on one or more of the topics and subjects and talking points that me and my guests are engaging in. So make sure you comment your favorite line down in the comment section. Like and subscribe if you have not already had the chance. And I'll see you all in the next one. Check it out. Feeling like I'm always seeking attention, bleeding and mending over people attempting to keep me ascending. But to me, all the guessing what to do and who to be and how to see through the tension gets to be too much. Simple and plain, you're not enough to get what you want. This shit is a game of who can shine the brightest in this life. It's a shame because stars don't shine by effort. They shine by their nature. It's time that I take a good break and break the societal normality that ain't what makes for environment and atmosphere that greats are made from. Create escapes and build a civilization that's based on the values we hold in our heart. Instead of the validation that we hold as a mark of worthiness, encourage kids to have a goal and then start taking incremental steps until they see that a part of being human is being able to manifest thought. This very podcast, a testament. Manifest heart, stretch far. Don't let them suppress art. Invest in your intellect and you bound to get smart. And to all the mothers in the world, I hope you know you need it. To all the fathers in the world, I hope we stop believing all the lies they spread about you, bro. I'm thinking this your season to the next generation, just make sure you bring the peace in. Shout out to Lilly for today's conversation. It inspired the lyrics I'm putting into rotation. So pass your favorite line around like it's a blunt and show them how we get down on the expression of love. Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
One of the things I feel like that held me back for a long time in business was feeling like I was very afraid of wanting to be an influencer or a personality or something. I didn't want that. It's like, I want my business to thrive. I want people to know who I am. I want my work out in the world. I want to impact people, but I don't want that other shit. I don't want to feel like I'm always on, or I don't want to feel like I'm seeking attention, or I don't want to just my life to become me, because we're all a personal brand at this point, right? And so I think that for a lot of years, I resisted sharing wisdom that I have, because I was very concerned with, well, what are people who does she think she is? And I don't know more than anyone else. I'm just a human. I don't, wanting to make sure that
your humility was on your mask, basically.
Correct. And in a quest for success, not becoming so self-absorbed and so forward facing that I lost my relationship with myself, just my own inner relationship that I love so much, and I love that. And I was like, well, if I give all of myself out to the world, and if I was concerned about losing the relationship with myself, and I was concerned about perception and how people would view me. And I'm over that now. I'm happy to say, I've moved past that, but it was people say all the time these things, oh, shine your light, don't dim your light, don't play small, and all of these things. But for someone who doesn't have a naturally outward, extroverted personality, it's hard, because I want to shine my light, but then I want to keep a lot of my light to myself, if I'm being honest, because it feeds me, and it's what keeps my mental health thriving. It's what keeps my enthusiasm for life. And so there was this fear of like, okay, if I'm so busy shining my light on this platform, this website, this thing, am I going to have enough to sustain myself?
Well, I definitely want to encourage you to keep shining, and to know that what you are, said, and it's just encouragement is coming to me right now, so pardon me, but what you are is not an introvert or an extrovert or this personality type or this this bundle of fears or this bundle of confidences. What you are is like the sun or like a star. A star cannot shine on itself, and it doesn't shine via effort. It shines via nature. And your influence on me, and just like the way that you put your truths out there for us to learn with you on and learn from, in a lot of ways, it's not the amount of shine that comes through that you couldn't effort your way into that. So keep being your authentic self, but we really appreciate it. On the side of that, no, for sure. But that's very relatable. What you said is that, it's like, but does that mean I have to fit into a box? Does that mean I have to check these boxes like at least twice a week, or what? How does it fit?
Even this, very relatable. Even today, even today with my camera, we had some camera issues, y'all.
Yeah, we did.
I had a webcam, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to show up clear and just perfect lighting and everything, because this is a platform. This is where I'm sharing, and this is wonderful. And for whatever reason, the webcam said not today. And so I'm using my computer camera. And this is a great example, because I feel like I wouldn't want to be a person that's like, no, I'm not perfectly lit. I'm not this. We can't do it, because so concerned with the package that I missed the opportunity to actually share what's important.
Right. Rest in peace to the webcam, y'all. Put
It
rest
is
in
what
peace in the
it
comments. Yeah.
is.
So in preparation for this episode in particular, because a lot of your content is on self-reflection, and I mean, obviously, like it relates to pleasure, and we'll get into that down the line. But this was just something that I was like, oh yeah, I want to read this quote and see how it lands with this type of thinker, right? With Lilly. So there's this quote. I'm just gonna read it, and I want you to kind of riff off of it, if you will.
Okay.
It says, one of the most surprising but powerful explanations for why we may, as adults, be in trouble mentally is that we were, in our earliest years, denied the opportunity to be fully ourselves. That is, we were not allowed to be willful and difficult. We could not be as demanding, aggressive, intolerant, and unrestrictedly selfish as we needed to be in those years because our caregivers were preoccupied or fragile, and we had to be unnaturally attuned to their demands, sensing that we had to comply in order to be loved and tolerated. We had to, one last point here, we had to be false before we had the chance to feel properly alive.
Hmm. Wow. That's deep. Here's what I think about it. And I was listening to that through the ears of a mother, and a mother of a now teenager and a bonus mother of kids from 12 to 20, right? We have to get rid of a lot of conditioning around how we parent Black people in particular. Not, let me rephrase that. I wouldn't say Black people in particular, because there's the expectation of obedience trumps everything, for a lot of people, for a lot of parents. And I'm really grateful. I don't feel like that was necessarily my experience. To an extent, yes, but I will say that I didn't feel, I didn't have, my mom wasn't like, okay, well, you got to listen to what I say, and you got to do, and you can't be a person until you wash the dishes, clean the room, do the things, shut up when grown people are talking, go in the room, all of that kind of stuff. But as a parent now, it's hard. That part is hard, because I want to encourage a bright young lady that has autonomy, and that her first relationship, with me, that she feels supported and able to try things on in her life, to try it on, so that when she gets to adulthood, she can decide what feels good. But it's like a lot of parents want to keep kids, they kind of decide who they want them to be or who they should be, and then they put them on that trajectory, and that's where they go. And then they get older and they realize, well, damn, really all who I am is just a group of my parents' narratives and decisions about who I was going to be as their child. And so it's important to me for my daughter to allow as much freedom as I can, while also protecting her. It's hard. It's a hard balance, because you can't be all like, oh, just do whatever, go out in the world. They're children, and they need protection.
Structure. Yeah,
Yeah, they need protection. They need structure. They need guidance. So finding that balance is really hard. But I found that, and especially in the work that I do, a lot of my clients, when we start digging into their ideas about themselves, around, their bodies, around sensuality, around sexuality, a lot of it comes from that first relationship with parents. And they realize that they've kind of been carrying a lot of their parents' bullshit for a good part of their lives.
No, I mean, and like Freudian psychologists will say all of it comes from that first relationship, or those first relationships, right? And I mean, there's a lot of validity. There's some things that many doctors and things may feel is a little outdated, but there's a lot of validity over there as well that during like even just the nursing years and stuff like that, you're so far down into theta brainwave that you just take in every subtle, like you said, like we've talked about earlier, the parent may on the outside be smiling, but if they're feeling on the inside is nervousness and how do I protect you and how do I get you ready and how do I do this right? And that's it. And there's no just sort of unconditionalness about it. Then what is the baby going to soak in? The body language. They want to soak in more and the energy, because your aura is more expanded before you start relying too much on your mind. So the energy, even before the body language, is just absorbed and taken in and learned and put into the genetics and the DNA of the baby.
Yeah. And that to this day, I mean, the body language is really, over the years, children see what your mouth is saying and what your body is. They learn, you could say, you know what I mean? It's like we think we're fooling somebody talking to our kids. My daughter will all the time be like, I can see by the way you're sitting, you're not taking me. I'm not even going to ask you. Like certain things, she's perceptive and she knows, she can tell by my body language, by my energy, what's happening, you know?
Right. And I'm not a parent, but I did work in the school system for more than 7 years. Third grade was my favorite. I was a floating sub, so I did K through 12, but third grade was my favorite because it's right there around second and third grade that not necessarily only like kind of defiance direction stuff happens, but the inner reading and being able to express what they're reading comes into play, and where you can more easily almost kind of lie to a kindergartner than you can a second grader or a third grader.
Mm-hmm.
Just, it kicks something click. They're still in theta, so they're still absorbing everything, but something starts to click about certain things. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned especially Black people, and there's some validity behind that too. And maybe it's a affluent versus, in need communities thing more than Black and white. But there's definitely some. I mean, I've been right in the house where I've seen you get thrown a Capri Sun, you get sat in front of the television, and you're told shut up. And it's meant, and you'll get beat if you make too much noise or if you throw a pillow, or something, what I'm saying? You'll get a beating. And it's like, yeah, that, you what are you going to do? I mean, you can say something, you can check the parent, but then it's okay. I don't live here. It's like, what are you going to do?
Right.
How were they brought up? Kind of thing. And all of these different questions. I mean, what do you think are some of the most important things to avoid for, parents or uncles and aunts and whatnot that in this regard when it comes to bringing up the new generation with some structure, with some direction, with some guidance, but also with a high level of freedom that's unconditional and the love that's unconditional? What are some pitfalls we can avoid?
Ooh, it's hard. It's a struggle because something so easy as going into my daughter's room, it takes a lot for me to give a little knock and then come in, because I feel like, this is my house. This is, what I'm saying? I'm gonna come in when you're a kid. Like, I don't need to get your permission, but it's like, you know what? I do need to get your permission. You know what I mean? This is your space. Like, you have a right to your space. I expect you to knock when you come into my specific space in the room. So why aren't I doing that? Just because That's the conditioning. You know, it's
Right,
my
like, I changed your diapers, nigga. Like, what you?
right. This is my house. And keep the door open. The door shouldn't even really be closed. Honestly, you need to have your door open at all times, you know? So I think it's just so hard to break some of those patterns. And some of the things is easier, right? With technology about, when your children get older, text me, check in, and that makes me feel good that I'm able to allow for more freedom, because a lot of the times it's not my daughter I'm worried about, it's the world. I feel good about who she is and how she makes her choices, but it's wild out there. And so I think that allowing for just some more space, but even to that end, I'm always the parent, like, okay, where are you going? Okay, I need to talk to the parent that's there. It blows my mind. Some of these kids, they just make moves. They just go places. And I'm like, wait, whose house are you going to? What is their last name? Who is their mama? I need her phone number. I need to make sure that it's okay that you're over there. I need to make sure that there is a parent over there. Like there's things that need to happen. But I think that I'm always blown away by how some of her friends move around. It's just like they go from place to who knows what. And I feel like, okay, if that makes me old school or the only parent that does that, that's fine. But I need to know what the hell is going on, and where you're at and who's going to be there and who's responsible for you. Because at the end of the day, you're still a kid.
That makes me think back to you mentioning your mom wasn't strict in certain ways, like in certain ways, wasn't necessarily. So I think that this might be a good segue for. Now I'm not going to pry. You've shared a lot on social media. Like I started this off saying we're not super duper friends, but I mean I do feel like I know quite a bit about Lilly, because I mean you just be like bleh, like here's what I was doing at 21. Here's what here's the marriage stuff that I went through. Maybe if you could tell some of your story, and I might ask questions. I might stop you and ask questions in the middle. But like going from, I don't know, your maybe 16, 18-year-old self when you first started to be like, I'm a human now. I was a kid, but now I'm a full ass human, like Melanie. I'm a full ass human. And it was kind of
okay. I was bad. I'm not what is bad, but no, my adolescence, as my mother loves to say, we had a rough patch. I went left and nothing too bad, but I was just smoking weed, skipping school, drinking, smoking cigarettes. I was just out there, I grew up in Rochester. And my upbringing, the great thing was I was surrounded by a lot of family, a lot of cousins. I felt always protected and safe, but it wasn't necessarily a safe place. I had close friend was murdered when I was 14. She was 14 as well. And so seeing that and realizing like, I don't.
In front of you?
No. Thank goodness. No, not in front of me, but just knowing like someone that was, and we weren't like super tight. I was more friends with her sister, but just knowing that was that close in my circle, I had a cousin that was murdered in Rochester. I mean, Rochester is rough, and so for me, I was out there just trying to see, I wanted to be out in the world. My friends were a little bit older than I was, and we were just riding, having fun. And I wasn't doing that well in school. And my mom was really frustrated. Now, my mom she's a retired now, but she was a sex therapist. And so that's where a lot of, kind of sex positive. She was very sex positive. So that was a great influence on me growing up. But she also worked in like drug and alcohol addiction. And so she could test my urine. And so I remember coming home one time and I had lied about where I was. And she was like, pee in this cup right now. pee in this cup, right? I'm going to take it. And she could do it. You know, this is before they had at-home drug testing kits, you know, and she was so concerned. We had such a great relationship, and she was just so concerned by the fact that not necessarily what I was doing, but that I was lying to her.
Yeah.
Now as a mother, oh my God, you know, I can feel what that feels like. Cause it's like, you feel like you have this bond with your child, and like, she was very open. It's not like she was that restrictive that I couldn't tell her things, but it was just like, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I was very headstrong. So anyway,
some of that rebel just popped out.
Yeah, it was just me doing what I wanted to do. It wasn't about smoking weed or drinking or the things that I was doing. It was just that, like, I want to do this at this time, and this is what I'm going to do. I don't care what my mama says, you know, and just that was where I was at. So I went to school out of state. I went to Virginia State University my first year of college, and that was a great experience. I was so happy to just be out of Rochester and be somewhere new, and just around Black people that were doing shit and learning and you know, it was great. However, the dance program sucked. Honestly, HBCUs need so much more money. You know, that's a whole nother topic, but the school was so raggedy. Mm-hmm. And the dorm situation, everything, I was like, I can't be here. So I left. I went to Brockport. I studied dance. I got a degree in dance from there, New York. So I was back closer to home. And then I moved to Vegas right after graduation. You know, I graduated in May. July 1st, I was in Vegas, and I didn't know anybody.
Now, before you get real heavy into Vegas, I wanted to ask you, but I wanted you to kind of get up here first. What was it like? Whatever detail you feel comfortable with, and it's pre-recorded, so I can take out stuff that if you think later, like, you know what, it would be fine if my mom's name wasn't in it. You know what I'm saying? Right. We can take stuff out. But anyway, you mentioned she was very sex positive. Now, you're very familiar with that term, but not everybody knows what that means, and not everybody will be like, oh, that's good, right? Some people will hear that because just out of ignorance, they don't know. Yeah. Will be like, oh my God, that sounds like very very kind of not a good thing. Yeah. But I don't think that's the case. So what are some, what did that look like, smell like? To be 17, 18, whatever, getting ready to go to college and have a sex positive mom at the crib. Right. Well, the most important thing I think that came out of that was I was incredibly comfortable with my body, and I didn't grow up with any shame. I didn't grow up with any shame around my body or around sex. That was the most important part of, I think, being raised by someone who is sex positive. I mean, my mom had art with naked people in the house. She used to wear condom earrings, picking me up from middle school. Like, you know, she was very an advocate for safe sex. And so none of those things ever felt taboo or shameful for me. And so to be able to start my own sexual life, not feeling shameful in any way, was really major. And also I was able to talk to her. I was able to talk to her about, I called her the first time I had sex, I called my mama directly after, you know, and she said, okay, well, let's talk about birth control. We need to and we went on down and got some birth control pills. And it was just I didn't feel judged by her. It was just like, okay, this is what's happening. Okay, this is what we're going to do. And that alone, just being able to feel that comfort. And my mom also, she really talked to me, not in super detail, but there were times where she wanted me to be a good sexual partner. You know, her thing wasn't about just like safe sex and having sex, but she actually was like, okay, this is something that you share with another human being. Don't be selfish and stingy. Nobody likes that. You know, like she would actually encourage me. Whereas early on, you know, I was still finding my way, of course, but
I remember saying something to the effect of like, sucking dick, ew, who would want to do that? Like I was very disgusted by the idea of it, right? And I remember her saying like, why? And she gave me a very good explanation that has stuck with me. And she was like, well, listen, she was like, part of the act of pleasing a man with oral sex, of course, yeah, there's no nerve, your clitoris has nerve endings there, your throat does not. So you're not going to feel, it's more about the feeling of giving pleasure than it is the actual feeling of something, a large object being in your throat. And I said, huh.
I'm sorry.
That makes all the sense in the world to me,
and I hope I hope that y'all can bear with me laughing. I tried to picture like my mom saying that. Oh man, that's that. But yeah, there's a big psychological difference in.
Yes, and I could understand that, and that was a way that I could understand. And she was like, the pleasure you get is from pleasing your partner, and if you don't want to be doing that, you need to think about why you're in a position. Why are you doing it? If you're looking at this person and you don't feel called to want to please them, then you might be in the wrong sexual situation. And so that made a lot of sense to me because I was a kid. I was like, ugh, why would anybody want to do that? Gross.
It's really great that because there's like, at least with good parents, there's like absolute trust. And so once the can is open, the bean's going to spill out. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who will listen to this podcast, who will watch this podcast and be like, there's no way I could have ever had this experience with my mom. There's a lot of, religion, there's a lot of layered blocks.
Yeah.
Right. And things. So thank you for spelling it out. I'm sorry if I cut in again. I'm sorry about that. But
no problem.
That's really, really, because I mean, I'm one of the, I probably could have went there with my grandma, but with my, nah, not a chance. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Not because she would have judged me, but because it would have been so emotional. There wouldn't have been any productive, logical conversation.
Right.
And with my dad and things like when because I had a phase. I'm not going down, what I'm saying, on no girl. But of course she gonna go down on me, kind of,
right. It's expected.
Very 90s hip hop kind of vibe going on as a young Black male. And again, I didn't have anyone that I could bring this up with, that there was absolute trust in the situation. My dad, I would have been able to talk about it with my dad, but he probably would have had a lot of jokes and things. It wouldn't have been what I was seeking. And I didn't grow up with the brother. I didn't grow up in his house. He was there and away, there and away, there and away. And my biological mother, I didn't grow up with her either. So I grew up with my dad's sister, my aunt. And there was absolutely no comfort in. I mean, she called me in my first love, like in a public bathroom. I was not talking to her about sex at all.
It's hard, and I think my mom being who she is, and, also take into account, she was a sex educator. She did this for her profession. It's a tall order, to ask parents that have their own issues, as we all do, to be open and available in that way that she was. And even my daughter, I enrolled her into I found a wonderful program that goes deeper into, consent, sexuality, all of these issues that when I thought about it, we talk and we share a lot, but I don't know that I want to have every single, I want her to have the information, but my mom was in it, we were close. People would freak out at the things that I told my mom, that's just our relationship. But for me as a parent, my daughter and I definitely share, but I don't even know if I'm comfortable sharing to the level that my mom did, because we're different. But
your mom. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did want to make sure that there was a resource for her to be able to.
You saw the value in what your mom was able to do, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Vegas.
Woo. Okay, moved to Vegas. Didn't know anybody. I just felt called that was where I was supposed to be. I thought about New York or LA as a dancer. They were both so expensive. I didn't want to be like struggling waitress going to auditions. Vegas, I got a great apartment, $450 for my first apartment. I had a Kia Rio. You could tell me shit. Okay, I got there and I got my first gig at Studio 54, go-go dancing, which was so fun. And I was so excited that I was making good money to just dance freely and wear costumes and put on wigs. And I was like, wow, I've made it. That's how I felt at that time. And was I using my dance training? Not really, but it didn't matter to me. It's like I booked the audition. I was getting paid. I was good. So during that time, I'll tell the story about how I got into exotic dancing. I was at the Hard Rock Cafe, and there was a gay couple sitting by me, and they said, hey girl, they were just so sweet. Do a shot with us. Okay, sure. I do a shot with them. We get to chatting, and they asked me what I did, and I said, I'm a dancer. And they said, oh, honey, I'm sure you make all the money. And I said, no, not that kind of dancer. I was like, no, I'm not that kind of dancer. I'm a professional dancer. I was very prideful. No, not me. And they were like, well, girl, you got a hot body. Like you have the gift of gab. Why aren't you? And I was like, why aren't I? They said, there's a amateur night going on right across the street. We saw the sign when we pulled up. So now by this point, many shots have been consumed, right? So this is all, we just drinking and talking. Couple shots down the line. Okay, if I go, are y'all gonna cheer for me? Yeah, girl, we're coming. Yes, let's go right now. I said, let me see, do my bra and panties match? Yeah, okay, let's do this. And next thing you know, I'm across the street with these two strangers entering an amateur stripper contest where the grand prize is $1,000. So I'm back there, and on this particular night, there was about 12 women. And the house mom said, well, normally it's a slow, it wasn't a weekend. We usually have 4 or 5 girls, so many girls. And I was like, oh shit, of course I picked the time. I was like, I felt great, but I'm not a stripper. I'm like, this is not my thing. So I was nervous. I was really nervous. And then
the novice nerves going on.
Yeah, I was nervous. And it wasn't even about my body or like, cause I was like, really? Yeah, it was like, just, okay, show my boobs. Sure. Like no problem. And so I get up there, and one of the women was in a bachelorette party. So all of her girls, I had my 2 little new friends, and she had a whole group. So needless to say, I went out there in my cute bra and panties. I took my top off. I danced around, and I felt like, wow, this is like, people make thousands of dollars a night. This is all I have to do is like dance with no top. Okay. So I didn't win. The Bachelorette won, but I did get second place, and I did get $500. And I was like, well, damn, $500. And they said, listen, if you ever want to come back and work, that was your audition. You're hired. Come back whenever you got some outfits and some heels, you're good to go. And that was the beginning. I said, my mind started saying, $500, I make about $800 a week doing this go-go dancing. I made $500 in one night. All I got to do is this. I felt no shame or embarrassment. We gonna roll with this. And so I started working in the day at the strip club, and then going to my other gig at night, and I was on it. I was just, yeah. So I was a dancing fool. I mean, today I can't even imagine. No sleep, just movement. all day, every day, but I was making money. I felt good. I felt sexy. I felt grown. And that was the beginning of like a almost 10-year run, dancing in clubs in Vegas on and off between other things. Got married. I was dancing when I met my, how do I even say it? Ex-husband. He wasn't my husband at that time, soon to be ex-husband. But yeah, so that was another big, so coming to Vegas by myself, getting the gig dancing, finding exotic dancing, really getting deep down into that life. And I'm always surprised how I managed to keep, actually, I'm not surprised, but I managed to keep a very good working attitude. Like a lot of girls get into dancing and it's like anything goes. You make your own hours, you come and go. You can kind of be lazy and not see it as a job. You can see it as like, oh, I get cute, put on makeup, people pay, people have drinks with me. And if I go home with some money, great. But I was very much like, no, this is absolutely my job. And I was able to keep a routine and make it work and not get
What about like staying away from like cocaine or certain other things that are very prevalent in those circles? Because I mean, obviously you had to, even if they were more so, what's that word when they're not really a friend? Acquaintances. Even if they're more so acquaintances, you had to make some friends.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That were
into that life
farther than you, basically.
Oh yeah, into that life for sure. It blows my mind that I made it through that period without doing drugs. No, honestly, because and there's no judgment there.
No, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like whatever, but I feel like because if I had, it would have been so readily available to me. If I had done, cocaine, for example, and decided that I liked it, it was it could have went bad. And so I think that being always like, this is work, and dancing, there were only very short periods where it was the only thing that I was doing. Like I was always go-go dancing, or I would do a show. Like Vegas would cast a lot of shows for other casinos in other states, but cast it and rehearse it in Vegas. So I would be doing a show somewhere. I worked as a dance mentor at a place for developmentally challenged children and adults for a while. And so I was doing that during the day. So I think always having something else helped me stay focused in that way.
Mm-hmm. What about pressure? Was there pressure?
I wouldn't say pressure. I felt internal pressure because I was trying to find my stripper persona, and I wasn't super bubbly, and I wasn't super.
Yeah, you talk about this on like 3 or 4 of your posts.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't super bubbly. I wasn't super aggressive. I wasn't like the party girl. I was much more reserved and calm. And so there was maybe pressure from my own self, like, well, damn, maybe if you just, do a couple, you'll be where everyone else is at, and you'll be able to be on and more, because I can do it when it's needed, but my natural way of being is not that. And it took so much energy to try to like be a whole different person. A couple years in, I started realizing, wait, there are people that are looking for you. There are people in this club that, okay, yes, physically or whatever, but like want to talk to someone with your demeanor and your personality. And so I was able to just chill out. But there was a point in time where I felt pressure. I definitely drank a lot, during that time. It was just part of the part of the game.
I don't want to get stuck in Vegas per se, but I do want to talk about that a little bit and hear what you have to say about that a little bit, because I think the way that I read it in your multiple posts, because you got a couple talking about this part of your life, was when you realize, like you just said, that, well, actually also me is marketable. Like the me that's doing this as work and that enjoys doing this as work and not as like, I'm pretending that this is like something
Who I
that is
am.
not. Yeah. The way that it kind of reads for me on those posts is self-acceptance started to blossom even in this world that I knew a lot of people view as not even just taboo, but like a little kind of ugly, kind of shadow, like belongs in the shadow realm.
Mm-hmm.
And you started to find a self-acceptance. How does self-acceptance blossom in that kind of world? You know what I'm saying? Like, or maybe just for you, but even in general.
Yeah. I think I was clinging really hard to not letting that industry change me. So it was, I kind of had no choice. I was so determined to not become a different person or not become like the stereotypical stripper, that I kind of doubled down on just being who I was there and realized that it could still be fun. It could still be lucrative. It could still be all of those things. And that felt really good. And in certain parts, I don't want to make it seem as though, there's a certain amount of acting and playing that I couldn't be 100% me.
Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
No, but to your point, actor superstars, right? Will Smith, Viola Davis, they're acting, they're in character, and they're even only saying the words that they're permitted to say via the script. They're permitted to say, but they do bring themselves to every role, and it's a role, it's a mask, but it's not their mask. It's the mask for this job.
Exactly. And I always like to say, I explain it as I was myself. I just turned up the sexuality and I turned up the enthusiasm. Okay. So who is Lilly, but just with these knobs turned up all the way to 100.
Word. And I want the listeners and watchers to know that it's okay it's okay to mask in a self-aware way.
Exactly. Yeah. You said it perfectly.
So yeah, I wanted to stress that point because that's very interesting. I mean, like who'd have thunk?
Right. Who'd have thunk? And that was the catalyst for me even getting into movement, getting into the work that I do now. Was I had a moment on stage where my damn life was falling apart. Like I had just found out my husband had been cheating on me for a long ass time. Everybody knew. It wasn't just like, oh, you were cheated on. Okay, happens all the time. But it's like I was the last one to know. I felt so stupid. I felt so embarrassed. I felt so, and he had already like moved on and was taking pictures. I mean, there was just no respect. I felt disrespected. I felt all of these things. I didn't know how I was going to survive financially. Everything was entangled. He was not, there was just a lot going on. And I was on stage and I remember feeling like I'm dancing and people are throwing money. And I'm thinking, I am so disconnected right now. Like I just felt so disconnected from my body, so ungrounded, so not present. And it was like, okay, well, I'm here and these lights are on me and all these people are looking at me and seeing like, oh, here's this beautiful woman on the stage and her body, she's moving. But I felt the complete opposite of what I was projecting. And that was when I knew like, okay, you gotta get back in touch with you. And that moment was just like, I felt pitiful up there, but I was dancing and the money was coming and I was sparkling and shining. To anybody looking, you wouldn't know anything, but I felt absolutely pitiful when I was up there. And that's when I started saying, okay, you've danced all these years. for others, you know, to audition for a role, to be on a stage, to perform. You do the choreography you're given. You're trained to replicate people's movement. You're trained to be a part of a bigger production. And so what does it look like if you start moving your body for you, period? What can you find out? How does that make you feel? I just started being really curious about those things. And that's kind of what propelled me into what it is that I'm doing now.
Word. So you started to inquire into, who am I now? Maybe I was this for a while, and that's fine. And that's actually, there was a lot of survival that came with that. Good survival, not barely getting by survival, but there was a lot of fun times and money and whatnot that came through this. But who am I now? It doesn't, because what it sounds like, this experience on the stage, like on that stage, when it hit you, it sounds like this is empty now. It may not have been 3 years ago, but now this is empty. Can't pour nothing out of this into myself anymore.
That's exactly it.
So how did you start to, let's come up towards today, I guess. Because just for a little bit of context, you have like your courses, and you have this coaching, like different methods of coaching, whether they're personal or more like off and on. My wife joined one of them not too long ago. I don't know if that particular one is still a thing that you do, but you have a lot of practical means of teaching the self-awareness that you teach. So let's go from, I guess, after that moment and maybe a couple days into it settling in, it's empty, and I need my cup got to be full, and moving into today.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that happened was, and I don't remember if this happened all at once, or it was a feeling that came over me of like, I'm not going to let this moment define me. That was major, because it felt like everything was falling apart. I had filed for bankruptcy. I was now a single mom, and my daughter was going back and forth. She was young. My house was foreclosed on. I mean, it was an absolute mess. And after that moment, I was like, none of this shit is going to define me. Not stripper life, not this divorce, not the fact that I filed for bankruptcy, not the fact that this damn house is being foreclosed on, none of it. And I felt really free. I felt really free in the midst of everything, because everything was still going on. And that's when I started moving, and I started moving my body. And I was like, wow, like, girl, you still got there's a lot of good energy within you, you know. And I was able to find that through just moving in my room, just dancing in my room, and putting on music. And I did every kind of thing you can imagine. I mean, I was twerking, I was stretching, I was doing ballet, I was rolling on the ground, I was in a ball crying. I was doing the absolute most. But it made me feel like, wow, there's still so much goodness in you, and this does not have to be, this is just a part of your story. This is not like, and this is when it all went bad, you know. And I could see a vision of myself, of a version that was bitter and just still dancing, because I didn't feel confident enough to step out of that. And, you know, I knew I could do it. Like, somewhere, you know, parallel universe, that Lilly is out there, you know, and she's hasn't any more loving. She's distrusting. She's bitter. She's still stripping. Maybe she started doing cocaine. I don't know. But it's like, I feel like it was a definite path that I could have taken. So it became clear I had to stop dancing. It was no longer giving whatever it was. You know, I used to feel good. I liked the attention. I liked the money. I liked the ease and the flexibility of my schedule. But it was just no longer, it became something that I dreaded. And it was like, it's time to switch this.
I think what contributed to that probably most heavily is everything you just named is external. money, attention, feeling like you have a certain self-image. All of those things are like external. Even self-image is external. It's like right. It sounds like something in the mind, and it technically is, but it's an external thing. It's because your opinion of your self-image comes from other people, so it's external. And so I think it was maybe time for some internal recognition. I'm gonna keep calling it self-awareness, because I think what you offer is self-aware, is at least self-awareness adjacent to pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Something, because obviously there's a whole spiritual kind of chakra self-awareness and things that is also valid, but yours is more like pleasure adjacent self-awareness to me.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm gonna use that adjacent to pleasure, but for real, that's what it was, and it became clear. One, that it was okay to feel good, because through that movement, and like when I was in there doing the most and twerking and crying and doing all this stuff, I felt so good. And it was like I heard the download, it's okay for you to feel good, because I didn't feel like that. I felt like I had to figure shit out. Who cares how you feel about it? You got to figure shit out. My daughter was in private school at that time. How are you going to pay this tuition? Where are you going to move to when this house is foreclosed? What is your credit going to look like with this bankruptcy? What are you telling all the people that keep saying, oh, girl, how are you doing? Are you okay? Are you holding up? I mean, it was nuts. And so the feeling of like, no, it's actually okay for you to feel good and to have some sort of pleasure in your life. Like, you don't have to be in this situation and figuring it all out 100% of the time. And that was a really pivotal moment. And that really put a lot informed what I do and the message that I have now, because there are so many women that are out there, and whatever it feels like they don't have permission to feel good, because there's such a load to figure it out. And even if they're not going through a divorce or a certain situation that's causing that, just being alive and wanting to be successful and wanting to be a good wife and wanting to be a good mother. And there's this feeling of like, I have to figure these things out. I have to be making it happen. And it's okay to feel good, and feeling good fills that cup up. And then you have just such renewed energy for the things that you do have to figure out, and the obligations that you do have to meet. You meet them willingly and happily, and without feeling resentful.
Yeah. And that again, it brings up the same thought that, it's because when you, and I'm going to say it like this, when you finally shift what you want from something external to something internal, or maybe better put, something spiritual, your values shift with it. Your perspective of even what the world is and why you are shifts with it. You know what I'm saying? And the power that you're backed by is no longer coming from the self-image that relies on other people's opinion. The power is coming from something you don't have as a destination. You no longer have a destination. You are the destination.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a pinnacle of the work that I do now, is no one wants to go anywhere without a destination in mind, or without a goal to reach. The concept of exploring, it just goes against everything that we're taught. It's like, we don't have time to explore. We got to get this money. We got to make sure this happens. We don't have time to inquire. We don't have time to be curious about who we are. And I just don't subscribe to that. I have, but now I understand that being able to move through my life with curiosity and to kind of see it as an exploration. And of course, there are goals that I want to meet. There are targets that I set for myself, but the way that I get there looks a lot different. And so bringing that around to moving to Austin, I set in motion just, okay, hey, I knew that I had to change location if I was going to stop dancing.
Rebirth.
Because, yeah, Vegas, that's all I knew there. And it was so easy to fall back into of just, oh, you need some money? Okay, go to work. Very simple. And it was like I needed to train my mind to like, okay, that's not really how most of the world works. And so I decided to move. It took a couple years from making the decision to actually moving, but I moved to Austin. Again, my best friend was living here. Thank goodness for her. I knew about Austin from coming to visit her. At first, I was very much like, Texas, girl, bye. I'm not doing that. You know, I didn't know. I'm from New York. I didn't know about Texas. But I loved it here. I loved the energy here. And I felt like, yep, okay, I could be here. And I made it happen. I moved 2015 and I started teaching 2015. Yeah.
I got to Austin in 2015.
July. Yeah, I'm coming up on my anniversary.
Wow, that's crazy. I got to Austin September 2015. That is
wow. Okay, so we must have met very shortly after you got here.
Kidada and them show where you did a
demonstration,
a sweat, dance and sweat thing. Yeah.
Yep.
I danced in it. Me and Tensi had a great time.
Yeah. So like I got here.
Yankee.
Yep, I used to stay with that Yankee hat on at all the classes. But I got here again, and I didn't know. Like I had saved money, thank goodness. You know, thank goodness for the strip club because I had a couple coins enough to just be able to get here. You know, get my apartment and get situated. But I started teaching, and my first class. And listen, that's why I have no qualms about my rates and my prices today, because when I got here, I was charging $5 for a class. I have done free, I have done $5, I have done $20, I have ran around and paid my dues. But when I got here, I found a studio to rent and I started Twerk and Burn. And Twerk and Burn actually started in Vegas, but it just really didn't take off there. But I love the idea of infusing kind of the sensual movement with fitness, because I had a group fitness certification. And so I love to teach group fitness classes, but I wanted to add some flavor to it. Everything was very dry to me. Zumba, I thought was very corny. I was like, I wanted to just add some flavor. And so that's how Twerk and Burn was born. And I brought that to Austin and it took off, you know, and I was so surprised because Vegas, it just didn't pop. And then as soon as I got here, women were so excited about it. And I started doing the classes. I taught at some studios. And then I decided I wanted to move beyond Twerk and Burn into different forms of dance. I started teaching Afro-Caribbean classes, did some contemporary classes. I was like, I'm going to teach all the things, right? And coming around from that, what I realized through Twerk and Burn was that women were coming to these classes and really getting something so valuable. And they were talking about their lives, like to strangers, like afterwards. It was the after class for me, right? Like we would have wine, and that was always a part of it, was community, right? I didn't want it to be you come into the studio, move around and leave. So there was always opportunity for the women to talk to each other and get to know one another, and such great and deep conversations about experience and what women were going through were coming up as a result of this movement, because women will walk through the door one way, right? Kind of clammed up and not knowing what to expect. By the time the Twerk and Burn was over, they had made friends, they're feeling good, they're expressing themselves and all of this stuff. And so it made me think, I want to go further into self-awareness, self-exploration. Like, how can I use movement as a tool for that versus being a movement facilitator and have people just come to my class to learn choreography or learn routine? I want to use the movement as a way for them to get to know themselves one-on-one. And so that is how that happened.
Word. And that brings us kind of full circle to what we were talking about when you first got here, how you make it possible for these women to expand their self-awareness into really their intuition, which I think, again, shows up more in the body. It shows up in the mind. I mean, obviously, sometimes that little voice will save your ass, but it shows up in the body even more so.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, man. So at the Expression of Love podcast, if I don't ask this question, it ain't the Expression of Love podcast. This whole story, and y'all, like when she says like these women like really feel they're getting the result that she set out, watch any of Lily's video testimonial kind of things where they're coming on and they're talking about how they feel after class. Lily gets it done. Definitely check her out. Her links will be in the description of this video. But here's my question for you. What has all of this kind of taught you about what love really is?
Let me take a sip of water on that. Hold on.
Sip. I don't even have my water bottle in here. That's usually a mainstay.
What has it taught me about what love is?
What it really is.
What it really is. You're going to have to edit this because I'm thinking.
No, you.
I want to make sure, I don't want to just spit some shit out.
Please take your time. I'm leaving this in here too.
Yep. And what? No. What it really has taught me though is that what love really is ever constant. Meaning through kind of whatever there will be times where you don't feel loved by people. You don't really even know if you love yourself. But I see it as this constant flow throughout. And it's just like, when are you going to get up on that wave again? It's never gone. And that's what I've learned. It's like, there have been times where I felt like I couldn't find it, or I had to look for it, or it just didn't feel present. Like love for myself didn't feel present. I didn't necessarily feel loved by a partner. I mean, thank goodness I've always felt loved and supported by my family and friends, but romantic wise, there was a time when I was like, man, this just isn't here for me. And I think it's always there. It's always there. It's constant. It's just you just got to hop on, and you have to find your thing that helps you hop on that wave. And whether that's, movement, music, whatever it is for you, movement is that thing for me, but whatever it is, finding that thing that helps you hop back on that wave of love is what it is for me. So I guess what I'm saying is like, love is an ever-flowing wave,
It's a force.
Yeah, it's a force. It's there. It will never stop. It's always flowing.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. In my own mind and heart, love is the coming together of joy and understanding. But joy, as you speak about a wave, is sometimes a decision. It's not just an arbitrary set of emotions that you attach the name joy to when they're present. Joy can be a decision, meaning it can be a verb. You can be enjoying, or you can be in joy by choice. So the coming together of joy and understanding, or maybe true understanding, which is another thing that sometimes understanding isn't an aha. Sometimes understanding is a choice to keep quiet, or to listen, or to just hug, or to, right? Understanding isn't just logical figuring. It can be something you're doing.
Yeah, indeed.
That's my addition. Thank you so much for coming to the show. I definitely had fun, and I would love to have you back on. I mean, I admire your mind, man. And we didn't there's things going on, right? We didn't mention Roe versus Wade, or we didn't mention the LGBTQIA plus community.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot. So I would love to have you back on.
Yeah, there's a lot there's a lot of issues and things to speak about, but it felt really good to just.
Yes, you new here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wanted to get you, and I your story is powerful. So I wanted to, first of all, hear it from the horse's mouth and not just get it in spurts from Instagram posts, but I also I wanted to have you share your story in a way that we can stress certain points. Like, it's okay to be creative with your sense of self, right? You don't have to have a rigid, this is the box that I fit in sense of self, which I'm learning is kind of the purpose of this whole podcast. I mean, I think you're episode 8 or something like that. And that's like a recurring theme, that redefining yourself, or letting the boundary of what your self means be wavy.
Oh yeah.
Expand, contract, be focused and then out of focus, or be focused, like zoomed in and then bird's eye view at some points. Like having a sense of freedom about how you see yourself and about how you see like the world, and even, God and consciousness or whatever. Having that freedom, I think, is a part of what this whole series is about at its core. And expressing that freedom. I mean, it's expression, right, of love podcast. So thank you for being, and thank you for being here now.
Yeah, thank you for having me, even with my little raggedy webcam.
Stop it. Yeah, man. Shout out, rest in peace to that webcam. Where can people find you at?
I can be found in them streets. No, I'm just kidding. Shoot. I said, it's so funny. Just as a side note.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what I'm not going to do. Like what I am not going to do today, tomorrow. I'm going to be in the house. I like to pretend like I'd be out and doing a lot of stuff, but I'll be asleep. Anyway, you did ask me something.
Well, where can people find you, Lily?
You can find me at LillyShepardMoves.com. You can also find me, at Lilly Shepard Moves on Instagram, Facebook, Lilly Shepard on LinkedIn, Lilly Shepard Moves on YouTube. Yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Are you going to write a book? Are you ever going to write a book?
There is a book that has been written. It should be coming. I'm not giving a launch date because I want to have the proof in my hand first, but the book is written. The book is edited. I have approved some cover design actually just yesterday. So yeah, the book is called Pleasure Principles for Driven Women, Reclaiming Your Pleasure Through Movement. And it should be coming out in the next few months. I'm very excited about it.
That is super awesome. Definitely send me the link as soon as you get it. So it may not be in the description when this episode first releases, but it'll be in the description after you send it. Or if I see it on Instagram first before you send it to me, then I'll put it in there either way.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming by. Big hug.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was wonderful. I'm just glad to be thought of, and just to be on here and help build what it is that you're building. So, keep up the good work and keep putting your perspective out there, because some cool ass people. I've been checking the episodes. I'm like, all right, if this is only one of people you don't know, I'm sure who do you know? Because it's good stuff,
Thank you. I'm like really happy that you said you'd be checking the clips.
Expressions of love.